Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the O'Reilly Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Tim Sestito. Alongside me is my co-host, Kevin, and our first very special guest this week, William Wallace, joining us live from New Jersey, just having put in Charlotte down. Billy, how are you?
Feeling good.
Feeling good.
I'm in the playoffs if the season ended today.
You're in the playoffs if the season ended today. That's always good. Even coming off a loss, still feeling positive about that, huh?
Well, 8 teams make the playoffs, so
No, I know. I'm aware of the
Now,
playoff
Bill,
structure.
do you feel like you need to change your team name since you're no longer in the city?
yeah, I thought about that the other day.
What do you got? What do you
Jersey
think you're gonna
Dogs.
change to?
Maybe Burrow Dogs. We're like these are all burrows out here.
Yeah, I would keep thinking.
I would say Jersey Dogs is better than Burrow Dogs, unless you had Joe Burrow, and then you could make it.
Oh, that would be good.
If you had Joe Burrow, but maybe you make a trade for Joe Burrow, coming off a really bad performance by him this week on the low.
Buy low candidate.
Buy low candidate, Joe Burrow.
I have Joe. Maybe I'll trade him to
you. Yeah, so this is going to be our week. We're going to look back on the week one matchups, talk a little waivers, and figure out what's going on for week two here going forward. I down in Nashville, I was lucky enough to have team owner of the Ravagers, Michael, come down for a quick visit. Got to get some drinks with him, say hi yesterday. I asked him, I got an exclusive one-on-one interview about the Ravagers team name, the switch from the iconic blue, which has been a staple since the inception of the league.
I took notice.
To Ravagers. Yeah, I think everybody took notice of it. And I asked him what it was, and he said, so him and Owen have been crushing a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy over the summer, just watching them over and over again. And that's the name of the group. So he decided to change his team name, and I like it. I'm in full support of it. Said, last year wasn't good and need to change up the team name.
I like it. I like the change of pace. I always love a good team change. When you change the team name, it's like you're trying to just, get over something, change the look of the feel of the team. I've changed my name like maybe 15 times.
And not only changing the name, but updating the avatar as well. I think that's important.
Critical. I think, were you the helmet a few years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was
You're the helmet. I mean, I like Kevin's maybe as the best team logo of all time with Billy as a communist.
That's a real photo, oddly enough. It's actually him in front of a communist flag. I don't know what he was doing back in the day, but
I think Night Knight's got to update the avatar.
I feel like the avatar is almost a part of Night Knight. He's just got the purple helmet, the orange circle. Like you see that, you're facing Joe, without question here. So week one recap for me and from my perspective, I got absolutely annihilated. Biggest blowout of the week by 121 points. Now Kevin did some investigative journalism, aka scoured the depths of the league archives. Kev, you had a little tidbit you wanted to share with us?
Yes, Daily News dropped the highest single week point scoring total in league history. Excuse me, I just had soup. I'm burping a little bit. In league history, the highest point total, 210 points. Michael had the previous record at 210.4, and that was in 2020. Only like 8 times has a team scored more than 200 points, and 5 out of those 8 have been Uncle Chris's teams. So it's kind of crazy.
That is pretty wild.
Tim, can we zoom in on that roster?
On Uncle Chris's roster? Yeah, we'll go to the matchup here. Right here. And it's funny because I saw Jared Goff with 14. I'm like, 14 from the quarterback. All right. Like I had 9 from my running back. I'm like, okay, I got a shot here. Nope. I stopped checking the app by the 4:00 game. So I was like, yep, this is done.
Most teams were terrible in the league. Most teams just were nobody breached 110 points besides Pat or Buzzsaw, Uncle Chris, and Narca.
Yeah.
When you get a 40 burger from your receiver and from your defense, that puts you, right up there.
I mean, not even a 40. He almost got a 50 burger. That was his highest contributor this week, was the Dallas defense. I mean, listen, we're just gonna as Giants fans, predominantly on this league, we're gonna just pretend that game was just hopefully didn't happen and that they're able to move forward from that game. It was ugly. I had it off by the half. But I mean, 32 from Ayuk. You got 32 from your guy in the flex.
And look at his bench. He's got Algier on the bench, who got 24 points. That's like one of the craziest games. He could have
scored more if he started Derek Carr over Jared Goff. Put it that way.
Yeah.
It would have been a point.
That could have helped in some tiebreakers late in the season.
Yeah, well, I think if you put up the highest points total ever, that puts you a pretty good distance above any tiebreakers. Because I mean, the goal is to end up getting to the playoffs. That's what we're playing for week in, week out here. So congrats, Uncle Chris. Biggest week in league history. I'm honored to be on the other end of it and get my F grade from the AI generated weekly recap of Yahoo Sports. We didn't really, I guess, Bolshevik Billies and the Ravagers had a fairly low scoring match, but fairly close there. Kev, you came away with a win here, pretty much carried by your receiving core.
Yeah, never had a doubt. The whole Sunday, I knew I was going to win. I just felt confident about it, and I think that I have one of the worst running back cores in the league. So I think if I go anywhere, I need my running backs to turn it around, but they're pretty bad. So that's why I went big on the waiver wire to try and get some sort of magic. What's the guy's name?
You tried to get the Kelly, yeah. Yeah, and I think what's his name's going to be out. The kid Eckler. They were saying he might be out with injuries. Looking over to Mike's team here, he had some decent bench points there. He really just needs Taylor to come back week 4. I think that'll really round up his roster there.
But there were like no teams that were good. Besides Buzzsaw, Narco, and Uncle Chris. That's 9 other teams were like atrocious. Even Sloan got 105, and that's
one of the higher.
And Uncle Bob 108. That's, come on. Those are like trash numbers in the middle of the season. If you're putting up 108, you're scraping by.
And I have a pretty nice setup down here. I got used Emily's college. Her brother just graduated from college, so I got the Sunday ticket package using his college ID to get in. So I watched a good amount of the games like through Red Zone. It's just a lot of slot. Like I don't think a lot, because these players just don't play in the preseason anymore. Like none of them were really tuned up for week one. So I think those scores will improve as the season goes on. It's kind of hard to assess where certain teams lie here, but low scoring.
Let's get into City Dogs. Let's see how City Dogs did this week. Blown out by Pat O'Reilly, but it is early in the season. City Dogs, how do you feel about week 1?
I don't like to think too much of week 1 because it's a long season, but I just didn't feel like any of my players had the sparkle. Ahmad St. Brown on the Thursday night game gave me some, had me feeling high, but then everything else came out flat. Even by the first half of the 1 o'clock games, I kind of was seeing there might not be good performance here. But yeah, and then Pat's team kept putting points up. Calvin Ridley taking a chance on the comeback player of the year. The rookie Robinson in Atlanta. Pat always knows these players better than you think.
I hate to admit it, but I feel like he outdrafts me every year. Not saying much, but definitely he gets these guys that are always putting up numbers.
Yeah, and I mean, he got Aaron Jones. I think he was the top scoring running back of the week. You have 2 top 5 running back scores, top wide receiver score. Garrett Wilson, the nice performance coming from Zach Wilson. That does hurt Garrett Wilson's stock, league wide though, going quite a downgrade going from Aaron Rodgers to Zach Wilson.
Dude, that was brutal.
Yeah,
that was awful.
I mean, we're not Jets fans here, but I feel like you had to feel a little bit sorry for him. It's like it was so hyped. He came out running, holding the American flag. You're like, all right, this is cool. Good for Jets fans. They're good like once a decade. And it ended in 5 snaps, and they had that exciting walk-off victory on Monday Night Football. But
I felt like the primetime games this week at MetLife Stadium were something.
they got to get rid of the turf there. Oh my
I
God.
don't know. I don't know what was going on, but
I don't
like
know how
opening
you
drive of the Giants game, the chat was lit.
Yeah.
People were popping off.
Yeah.
It was
And then I think it was only Uncle Bob the whole rest.
Yeah. Well, that's how he always does it. He just inflicts the misery on himself as he's
Kind of,
continually
he's
just.
always been that Cowboys fan. He's always
Well, let's hope not.
No.
So that was that matchup. Let's go. Let's look at a couple of the other matchups here. We had Narco, making his league debut, beating out our commish Sean's inheritance there.
Oh wait, go back to Pat's team. Kyle Pitts.
Oh yeah, you want to
yeah.
talk about Kyle Pitts?
You guys harped on it last week, so I just wanted to it's accountability is important. Kyle Pitts kind of stunk.
To be fair, though, the entire tight end position stinks. It stinks out loud. I'm okay if we want to turn this into a wide receiver tight end position.
Maybe a second kicker.
Honestly, we're almost at the point that a second kicker might make more sense than a tight end position because there's like 2 of them.
All I'm saying is Kyle Pitts went in the 6th round, and
my Cole Kmet off the waiver wires because Kelsey was hurt.
Another reason, you took him top 5, top 6. Bill?
Yeah, number 6 overall.
Number 6 overall. Yeah, that's tough. Back to Narco here. Really carrying off the weight of Christian McCaffrey here with a nice 31-point performance, and that Jets return touchdown there really put that defense over the edge. I mean, Josh Allen looked bad out there. Like he flat out looked terrible. He was just throwing the ball away.
Was this a close game going into Monday night?
It was close in points, but the projections had it basically. I think Narco the whole way.
And if the Jets if the Jets defense really, if they played like the Giants, maybe this switches one way over to the other. But we're looking good at Narco. Like I feel like that 17.46 from Kirk Cousins, he's just gonna get that from the quarterback position every week. Like not too much higher, not too much lower. It's just gonna be that consistent.
Yeah, I'll say this about Narco's team is that he has some wide receiver depth. He's got some depth. Honestly, his team is
looking good. The Pittman pick
Jamar
was
Chase
really
and
nice.
Allen are solid, and then having Pittman on the bench,
even Zay Jones.
Zay Jones is a good one too. So he's got some wide receiver depth.
And Mostert on the bench for running back depth. He outscored Connor by a point there. I mean, that's a good place to start there. Sloan's team, it looks like he just got killed by the tight end and by Tyler Lockett. Those were the 2 things that just took him out of the game.
Second half. He's a second half team.
He likes to draft like the Jackson Smith-Njigba. He's the rookie kid on there. I mean, he's got Anthony Richardson there as a backup QB for Herbert if he ever gets hurt too. So he's looking at a pretty strong team here. He a guy like Njigba just turns it on week 4, week 5. Replace that Lockett position and just slide another Seattle wide receiver in there. You're good to go.
Yep. Move on to the who's the next matchup we got? Boycotters versus Night Night.
Boycott. Yeah, this was the closest match of the week here. Joe eking out a win. Got his 20 points for I feel like Night Night wins a lot of close ones.
Yeah, I don't know if they're earned, but he wins them. You guys doing his pick'em league?
I forgot to do it. Forgot to join.
Bill, you in this pick'em league?
No, I couldn't find the link, and I just forgot to join too.
I mean, he clearly got torched by Drake London. Craig did. Drake London putting up a 0 burger. That you never want to see that. Tight end's pretty equal there. I mean, just looking at everybody's score here, the tight end position is just disgusting. I gotta just emphasize it here, because it looks like the matchup really came down to if Craig had gotten a guy in there and maybe gotten a little more out of Rashad White, he's looking at a win here.
Yeah, and you know what? Night has Cooper Kupp on IR, so he might be a late team too. And speaking of late, Bill, didn't you draft Kelsey?
We talked
Yes.
about that, yeah.
Oh, you already just brought that up? Okay, I didn't hear that. Sorry, guys. Edit that out. But night with Cooper Kupp. So his team will probably end up coming on strong later in the season.
It's hard week one. You're looking at everybody's roster, and like outside of 3 teams, everybody was well below their projections. You go, okay, I don't know what's going to happen going from week 4 to week 5, like what this is going to look like. I think it could be an interesting year for some trades here. It feels like a very much a transition year in the NFL. Brady retiring, kind of ending that era, and you now have like Mahomes and Allen being like those stalwart quarterback, quote unquote replacement of Manning and Brady, if you will. But now we gotta, who's going to be these guys that when we started this league, right, where you were just drafting Peyton, Brady, Breeze, all these guys who are just the studs of the league.
We got one more matchup to cover. That's Uncle Bob versus Bally James Duff. Which is James. Shout out James. We did not talk about James at all last week. That was brought to our attention by James.
No, Sorry, you talked James. About his name, his team name.
Talk about his team name. He's the only guy we didn't break down his roster. It slipped through the cracks there. Sorry, Jimmy. So this was also kind of a close game. And both two dismal, just horribly scoring teams. Yeah, Uncle Bob starting a tight end with 0 points, and James starting a kicker with 0 points. Both just brutal.
And J.K. Dobbins going down for my dad. I think this is the second time he's gotten him, and he lost him week 1 yet again. Kadarius Toney, easy drop candidate right there. After that dismal performance where that guy couldn't catch, but my dad's got some depth here. He's got some guys in the teams here, a couple position players that got did pretty well. I mean, James ended up losing because the Giants lost, and they lost.
James is riding high on the Giants. He's got 3 Giants players.
Yeah, he might feel a little bit worse. James is always like, he's true to his heart. He loves his Giants. Sunday probably didn't make him feel great.
No.
Quick tight end recap of the week. There's 4 tight ends that scored over 10 points. None of them are rostered. Nice. And then there's 13 tight ends that score between 6 and 9 points.
Oh my God.
A disgusting position. I'm here to turn this into a wide receiver, tight end flex position. Like, you could slot a wide receiver.
They'll come around.
No, they won't.
Well, we had Andrews out, we had Kelsey out. It was a slow tight end week.
It's always a slow tight end week in tight end land.
But so why don't we look at the matches going forward?
Yeah, let's go ahead let's do a quick little waiver recap here. I think the one that we need to note here is that for Puka Nacua, the Rams wide receiver, I think the Buzzsaw and I had the same idea of if they got another Cooper Kupp or Robert Woods brewing in the weeds there, we don't want to miss out on them. And we were both on each other's wavelength, and my dismal performance allowed me to get Puka. So here's hoping he might change the tides of my team.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy. You guys bid the same amount.
I think you got to change your team name to something Puka related.
I just think you want me to not have it be Billy related.
Maybe not Nazi related.
It's fair. I don't have a picture of you in a Nazi uniform, if that makes you feel any better.
But he likes the communists, he doesn't want to be associated with the Nazis.
Fair enough. They are the noted rivals, the Nazis and the communists.
Bill outbid you pretty by a pretty hefty margin for Joshua Kelly. the Chargers running back. I kind of feel like an idiot going 19 over the next highest bid, but hopefully this guy pans out.
Yeah, I was high on Joshua Kelly, because Uncle Bob, we just talked about how his running back that he's taken 2 years in a row is out for the season. Eckler kind of fragile. So Joshua Kelly, I think, is not a bad snag if it pans out. You hate to root for it like that though, so that's why I kind of put the fab low, but there's some upside there, and I think he was mixed in well, so we'll see.
Yeah, and you don't we never root for any of these guys to get injured, but that's just the nature of football, right? These guys, running back running between the lines, small little guy, he's gonna get hurt. That was a good bid. Yeah, I was in on the Kyron Williams and Puka Nakua and Jacoby Myers. I got two guys.
Now I just want to call out, I did the 0 running back this year.
I know,
So-
we're aware.
So the fab, I'm waiting for the running back that's going to take me to the promised land. I'm not.
Yeah,
I don't
is
think
he
any
gonna
of these
be
running
there?
backs this week are gonna do that.
Is he gonna be there though? That's the thing.
Yeah, you and me
They're
are
always there.
we're in running back purgatory. I don't know who has it worse, me or you. Let me see.
It's both terrible.
I got Kenneth Gainwell on the bench. He was
That's
later round flyer that maybe showed some promise last week, but
Yeah, he showed prom. He was the main guy for Philadelphia. And now he's out this week, and that's like, oh god. Now you don't know, but yeah, I mean that could be a guy that pans out for you. Looking at our week 2 matchups, we got me versus Sloan, Sean's inheritance here. I got a little bit of a, I'm looking at the matchup here. He's got his tight end questionable. I don't have anybody injured right here, but I do need, especially T. Higgins. I need this guy to wake up. I need Joe Burrow to actually complete some passes this week and not put up 3 points. And for Justin Fields to remember that DJ Moore is a good football player. That would be fantastic. Picked up the Cleveland defense there because they dominated the Bengals, and then Pittsburgh got mauled by San Francisco. So I'm like, all right, well, let's see if we can carry it on 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, I think they were the most added player in fantasy football this week.
That makes sense. I mean, Sloan's going with the Giants defense, projected for more points. The defense didn't look horrible, but granted, they played on their heels the entire game. Who knows? But
So I think I have a theory about the Giants offense, and it will help the defense. I think that Daniel Jones is an indoor quarterback, and I think that they're going to have the dome shut in Arizona, and I think he's going to throw for some yardage. Also, Arizona's not as good, so I think anybody with Giants players are going to feel a little bit better this week.
It was a very wet weekend here in New Jersey. I can attest to that.
All right, give us a breakdown of the weather.
It poured rain for 3 straight days. There's like 3 inches of rain Friday. I think we got 5 inches in total the last week.
Wild.
We got the Ravagers versus Daily News. Now, I'm looking at this, and he's got Zach Moss in there. He picked up the other Indianapolis running back. I think that's going to put him in a good position. I think Dallas Goedert will be more involved this week. If I'm looking at this matchup, I think it might end up coming down to who scores more. Is it going to be Debo or Ayuk? Mike's keeper there. We got the 2 San Francisco wide receivers in the flex there.
Just looking at week 1, the number 1 and number 2 wide receivers overall, Tyreek Hill and Brandon Ayuk.
Oh yeah. Well,
did not expect Ayuk. Yeah, did not expect Ayuk.
And I mean, he's got, Breece Hall's playing Dallas. They got a much better defense than the Bills do, as evidenced by week 1. Tyreek Hill's playing New England. Like, I feel if there's a team that knows how to stop that, it's Bill Belichick to not let him go off for 40 points. So I think, Mike's got a chance here. He's, a slight underdog in the projections, but I think he's got a chance here. If we're moving on, we got Narco versus Boycotters. Now, it looks like Narco has the highest total projected points of the week here, 123.7. Jalen Waddle questionable, Freiermuth questionable for Craig. It's early in the week, and James Conner questionable for Arizona. Hoping all these guys are playing here, but what are our thoughts here, Bill? Who do you think is going to come out ahead here this week?
I think Uncle Dan's got this one. I think the roster he's put together, legacies of the legacy of Uncle Bernie. He's got Michael Pittman on the bench with 13 points. He's got basically 4 top 20 wide receivers.
Yeah.
He's got, acceptable running backs. Evan Ingram was one of those was the number 1 tight end that was rostered last week. Those things count.
Yeah.
I think he could do better on QB though.
That's his guy, and I respect it. He watched quarterback on Netflix, and he went and got his guy. Fantasy football is about having fun. If you want to have fun with your guys, you go take them when you want them. If we're looking at the next matchup here, we got front runner and Bill versus the City Dogs here. Bill, what are your expectations for you to turn it around and come away with a week 1 victory here?
I think we got to see Travis Kelce play.
Yeah, I would say that's a big one. You're looking a little questionable at your flex.
Yeah. I mean, if you look, it might look questionable, right? Gainwell's hurt, so I can't play him. I could play McLaurin. I could play my keeper, Hollywood Brown. So we'll have to see. We're probably going to change that. And then I also dropped Cole Kmet, the tight end I had last week that limped me through week 1, and in favor of this Detroit tight end.
And you do have an open bench spot. I mean, it's probably worth perusing the.
You know how I got that open bench spot?
I saw your drop. Who'd you drop and add? I added the guy on IR, Wilson, right?
Somebody dropped Wilson on IR.
I did. I had to. I needed a tight end.
You have someone in your IR spot already?
He wasn't on IR when I dropped him.
Oh, okay. So I was like, he's on IR. I could grab him, and I don't have to drop anyone.
And we know this league is very touch and go when it comes to players being on the IR spot. Yeah, I mean, my dad got Luke Musgrave in at tight end. Never heard of this guy for Green Bay. Probably one of those guys in the 6 to 8 points. Yeah, again, when we're starting Luke Musgrave, I gotta just question the validity of the position here, to be completely honest.
If we just go back one to the overview of the season, how many 1-0 teams are playing 1-0 teams?
Let's see.
Like if we're trying to paint the picture for week 2, what's happening?
We got one
Night Buzzsaw.
That's it.
Really?
It's only Night and Buzzsaw.
Okay, so Night and Buzzsaw. That's a good segue, I think.
Yeah, that is a good segue. You're a real natural, Bill. Coming in here, I mean, Buzzsaw coming off a big win here. I think for him, key of the game is going to be, what does this Jets offense look like with, game planning for Zach Wilson. Think that might end up being the key differentiator here. And, can Kyle Pitts get more than 8 points in a game?
Yeah, I also have to think San Fran defense. Is it going to put 25 points up a week, or, are they going to come back down a little bit?
Yeah, that might be a point of contention there. I mean, looking over
I would have to sorry, Tim, I would have to give the slant here to the Buzzsaw in this matchup, because until Cooper Kupp gets back, I just feel like Joe doesn't have the depth compared to Patrick's team. Patrick's team runs deep. Aaron Jones was a questionable pickup because I felt like he was losing steam last year. I think he was on my team the last year or 2 years, and it looks like he's better than ever. So I don't know how you can compete with that depth.
Yeah, and I mean, he's got Darnell Mooney in here in the wide receiver 2, going up against a Calvin Ridley in that slot. It's not what you want to see, when you're facing there. But he had a pretty solid week for Chicago. But Justin Fields has got to just be better. I know my dad can attest to that. Now let's look at the last one here. We got Kev, the Bolshevik Billies, going against Jimbo. If this link will load.
I'd like to hear you pronounce Jimbo's team name, Tim.
I'm not going to. Baal Shamus Dubé.
I think you had it there.
That's pretty on the nose. My link is not popping up here. I just want to pull up this one matchup here, Yahoo. Let's see.
While you're stalling, we talked about the tight end position overview. We look at the defense position overview after week 1. Guess how many teams scored over 20 fantasy points?
7.
I'm gonna guess and say 11.
7.
I
But
was on the money.
there was over 15 that scored over 11.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
it was.
tight ends outscoring defense.
You mean
At a wild
defense is outscoring tight ends.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Watching the NFL Red Zone was one of the ugliest weeks I can remember. The amount of interceptions, fumbles, pick sixes, touchbacks, sacks. It was hideous offensive performance.
That might bring it back to Tim's original point. This is basically week 4 of the preseason.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely how it feels. Feels like a tune-up for pretty much the entire league. Really only 1 or 2 entertaining games, and one of them was the Jets game, that's a sad word for any fan of football. Looking at Kev versus James here. The quarterback's going to be the big question mark here. Both had their guy, Daniel Jones, Joe Burrow, both of them disappointed. But Kev, this is your matchup, your team. How do you feel going into this week?
Well, I feel good again. I just think that, if I look head to head, I think I have the better players lined up right now. I think he's riding a lot on the Giants. So, if the Giants do win and do play well, I won't be too upset. But I think that if all goes according to plan, I think my guys are going to fire on higher cylinders. And the matchup I think to watch here is Andrews versus Waller, because both are questionable. Both didn't play in week 1. And I think Andrews for me is kind of the key to unlocking some depth on my team, and with James as well. So I think it'll be a good matchup, but I'm hoping I blow them out.
We got 2 rookie wide receivers in the flex for you guys here, Addison and Flowers. Flowers had a very nice week 1. Addison, how did he do?
Addison had 16 points, but the thing to note
touchdown.
is Addison is going up against Philadelphia defense,
Yeah,
who are touted to be one of the better defenses in the league, and it's a Thursday night game tomorrow. So I don't know, a rookie on Thursday Night Football going up against one of the better defenses. Kirk Cousins can be a little inconsistent. I don't think that he's going to come through. If he does, I'll eat my words.
All right, I will send you your words via pitching carrier, and you can eat them on this podcast next week.
You know who I like in this matchup?
Who?
Digging into James's team a little bit. Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah, we want to see him touch the ball. He looked good on last Thursday.
Looked good last Thursday, and then I think the Seahawks gave up a ton of points last week, right? Who'd they play?
The Rams. They got killed by the Rams of all teams.
Wasn't necessarily running back points then.
Gibbs looked good. Gibbs looked good last week, and it felt like they weren't giving him the ball enough. But every time he touched it, he looked very explosive. He also had a run within the 20-yard line and bounced it outside and slipped that he probably would have taken it to the house. So I think he might be one of the better wide receiver pickups. I'm sorry, running back pickups in the draft.
Yeah, I think he's going to be one of those guys week over week. It's just going to compound until you're probably lucky you're facing Gibbs week 2 versus week 6 or week 7 when that guy's touching the ball 20 times a game. That's our.
So Tim, you want to round it out with one? Everybody pick one blowout of the week.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do blowout of the week, Kev. Your segment. You pick it up. You kick it off.
Well, we could stay right there because I think I'm going to destroy James. I'm going to predict 150 to 110.
Ooh, even with the predictions. All right. I like it. 150 from Kev. Bill, blowout of the week. Who do you got?
Here, scroll down a little. There we go. I think I gotta go with Daily News keeping it rolling over the Ravengers. I think there's a lot to like about the Daily News team, and we'll see what happens.
You got a score?
Let's call it 160 to 110.
We'll see if Uncle Chris's team is a wagon here. I'm gonna go with Narco, going up against Craig. I think he's got a little bit of that beginner's luck. He's getting McCaffrey, on a great offense and a running scheme that's built for him. I'm gonna go 155 to 122. I
Good
think
stuff.
that'll be the blowout of the week this week. Thank you all so much for listening. Billy, thank you for being our first guest on the O'Reilly Football Pod. You want to rate the experience on a scale of 1 to 5?
I cannot wait to listen to the episode. I've been waiting for it all week.
Yeah, well, we just recorded it, and then now I got to put it up on YouTube, which is what I'm going to do exactly as soon as I'm done recording this.
Nice.
Kev, any final words before we log off?
Let's go Giants.
Let's go Giants. Great words to end the podcast on. Let's go Giants. Let's get a win. Let's talk about them more positively next
When the next podcast drops, I hope we have tickets to the Buffalo game.
Oh, stay on after. Let's talk.
All right. They're going to coordinate. If we need to deliver news, we'll coordinate it through here. Goodbye. See you next week.